So good morning, everybody, and I want to thank Aaron and Gabby and Steve Berger and other folks and Andy and other folks from BARRICADE from Aptimmune for inviting me and allowing me to be involved in something that, as an old R&D guy, is about as good as it gets, which is, you just said it, a product launch. So it's an exciting time to be here, and it's also a good time to see lots of folks I haven't seen in a long time, but also lots of folks that I don't know. And so let me give you a little bit of my background, only to let you know that when I refer to other things in the past, it's some sense of perspective. So I've been in the international animal health vaccine business for 32 years. I spent about 11 or 12 years at Salisbury Solvay, working at the time to help to develop. One of the things we did there was develop the first MHIO vaccine. I left and became head of R&D at Boehringer for just about 4 years. At that time, we finished developing and launched the first and the second PRRS vaccines and the first one-shot MHIO vaccine. Went to Marielle, was at 16 years at Marielle as head of vaccine R&D in different shapes or forms over the 16 years, and developed a PRRS vaccine and a couple of MHIO vaccines. So I've been in the business for a while. I've seen what's worked and I've seen what hasn't necessarily worked. And as of May, I have left Marielle and I've formed a consulting company. I've been working with Aaron and Steve and Gabby since then at Aptimmune. It's exciting also to work with them after having been in as many multinational companies and big companies and billion-dollar companies, to get back close to the entrepreneurial spirit that really allows a small group of people to come forward with something that they don't necessarily have control of all the elements, but they act as the collaborative, innovative engine to be able to bring multiple elements together to bring a product to the market. And that product is really very, very, very narrowly focused on viral respiratory vaccines and with an intranasal delivery. It could not have been done by any one of those partners alone, and it's really Aptimmune has brought all of these technologies together. We'll talk about those as we go along. But first, going back to the big company kind of perspective, there are really 3 diseases that all companies, all major swine producers must have in their portfolio to be a global competitor. And those, everybody knows those. You know them and got more experience in the field with them. But you understand it's PRRS, PCV2, and MHIO. All the other major players then will be good at something else as well. And I think this is just to bring that point home. And we mentioned here Marielle with the asterisk, of course, is now SIVA on an international stage. So BI, Merck, Zoetis, Marielle, SIVA's got a nice line. Other companies have got all of these products represented in their portfolio, and then they've got something else that they do really, really well. And that's kind of how they distinguish themselves from in that regard. So all of the market opportunities, you would say, to start with are addressed, so let's all fold up and go home. Everything's all taken care of. Except, really, PRRS and SIV remain unmet needs and underdeveloped products in the marketplace. Now, this is particularly, I was thinking about this the other day. So it was 1996 that the first PRRS vaccine was registered, launched, put into the marketplace. And this is now 21 years later. In my 32 years, multinational, multi-species, 6 species, 7 if you include raccoons, I've launched and developed vaccines for all of those species. I can really only think of 2 diseases that continue to be chronic problems, that are still unmet needs, certainly 20 years after they're registered. On the avian side, Merrick's still needs to be addressed and readdressed. Every 4 or 5 years, something goes wrong in the field that needs significant redevelopment, and PRRS. And so the offering here at Aptimmune has that opportunity to begin to address those unmet needs. What's wrong with PRRS? You all know what's wrong with PRRS. I don't have to tell you what's wrong with PRRS. They shed, they spread, they revert when they spread, they mutate in a non-directed way, either through pathotypes or serotypes, and they're not always represented well geographically. So, with that in mind, the focus that Aptimmune is bringing forward with BARRICADE is the ability to address what those concerns that we've just outlined are. The company is very, very focused on those two agents, PRRS and influenza. Now, the core technologies that are brought forward here to attempt to address these diseases and the gaps that are in the existing disease portfolio are critical. The BARRICADE is not a grow it, kill it, stick it in a bottle, stick it in the animal. There's nothing wrong with that kind of a vaccine, by the way. There's lots of really, really, really good vaccines that haven't been touched for 20 or 30 years that are grow it, kill it, stick it in a bottle, stick it in the animal. Rabies vaccines are really, really, really good. Rabies are really, really good vaccines. PRRS is not an example of one of those that you can do that with. That's what we've seen over the years, over the decades now. The MLVs have got flaws. The inactivated vaccines have got flaws. So bringing unique technologies forward to begin to address the gaps in that is what Aptimmune is all about. And we'll talk about all those three, ZMac, the particles and the adjuvants associated with them, and how they will begin to fit into the product launch, the product rollout that Aptimmune has planned through the rest of the morning. Again, we'll touch on those elements today, and we know what's wrong with PRRS. It mutates, it spreads. The solution to that is the opportunity in the U.S. and in Mexico and other major markets now, Poland, Brazil, to look at autogenous or custom-made type vaccines. That's the solution, and to be able to respond in a much more effective way. Ineffective deliveries, you'll see some data, and you've all seen data from inactivated PRRS vaccines where some pigs do well. When you inject it, kill it, or when you kill it, inject it, some pigs in a challenge study do well. Lots of them don't do well. And so the inconsistency in response, we hope to begin to address with the mucosal response. And then, of course, inactivated, and you don't have the shed and spread and mutation issues. But again, we need to bring these, the particle, the uniquely prepared antigen and the adjuvant into play to be able to make this make this a success. And more so, on a step-by-step way, we have all of the essential elements laid out here. The PRRS virus, as the field samples come in from the field, and we'll hear from ISU and we'll hear from other folks about the importance of ensuring that you've got the right isolate to start with, is supported then by the fact that using the patent-protected and uniquely developed ZMac cell line, a macrophage cell line from pigs, we are able to ensure that those samples that come from the field are grown to a consistent titer. That formulation then allows us to be able to bring this in a lifelike fashion, in a normal virus-like presentation on the nanoparticles, and then present it where respiratory viral antigens ought to interface with the host, and that's in the respiratory tract. So that's what we want to do. What have we done to get to that point? Well, first of all, you have to understand that, and we have to understand that the response to PRRS, and we'll hear more about that as we go on. The response to PRRS is a very complex cascade of elements that occur within the pig. It has to start with effective processing by macrophages. And so we have a couple of slides here that I think speak to that. That if you take a macrophage and infect it with a live virus, and then treat that live virus with fluorescent antibodies, the virus control, that's how that appears. You can see all throughout the macrophage live virus fluorescing. If you take inactivated virus, apply it to these nanoparticles, and in this case without the adjuvant, And you can see that second slide, and then cultivate it with the macrophages. The macrophages phagocytize it, they process it, and they have the antigen within the macrophage, much like a normal virus would be. If you just kill that virus without the nanoparticles, put it in with macrophages, it's poorly taken up. And so that's what this slide, I think, clearly demonstrates. So we have the right initial uptake of vaccine by macrophages within the host. What does that mean? What do macrophages do? Macrophages are that, and I like the term, they're professional antigen processing cells. This is what they do. They initiate the response in the cascade. And one of the indicators that a macrophage is turned on and doing what it's supposed to do is looking at a number of different cytokines. And one of the more important cytokines is TNF-alpha. What we have here is an assay that demonstrates the amount of TNF-alpha produced by macrophages stimulated by different adjuvants. LPS is that adjuvant that's typically used as the benchmark to see how you're stimulating positively or negatively. And in this case, we can see here that TNF-alpha stimulation by the Aptimmune adjuvant that we've selected. Thank you. That we've selected. Okay. So you can see here the significant improvement in the response in the TNF alpha response is dramatic. So it's in the cells. The cells are doing what they're supposed to be doing. How do we know that those cells are then? How do we know that what those cells are doing is resulting in an effective response in the pig? In an earlier study, pigs vaccinated with either the mock vaccine, a traditional autogenous vaccine, or the intranasal nanoparticle-bound adjuvant formulated vaccine, what we see today in BARRICADE. We can, and if we look at viremia in the lungs of vaccinated and infected pigs, what we can see certainly in this particular study, and importantly, 100% of those mock and 70% of those traditional pigs had virus recovered from the lungs. You can see here only about 27% or 30% in the BARRICADE-treated pigs. And then also note that this is 10 to the third and 10 to the flat. So not only were fewer pigs had virus recovered from the lungs, but then even in those pigs, significantly less virus was recovered. So we can see then that the antigen's being picked up, the macrophages are stimulating a response. That response is resulting in a cascade of effector mechanisms that allow us to control the virus in the pig. So we do know that there are other vaccines that go up the nose of pigs, pseudorabies vaccines and Bordetella vaccines, and going up the nose of a pig is not completely novel here, but there are no other inactivated vaccines that have been put through an intranasal application. So I think that the unique position then that Aptimmune plays in this market is the ability to come up with a safe, effective, and responsive through the ability to make sure that you've got the right field isolate in the vaccine at a time, at a right titer in the product. It's a unique position that BARRICADE holds. Not to be political, but to borrow back from an Al Gore line. Let's talk just a little bit about some of the advantages of this product based on the fact that there's, the autogenous business, it plays an important role, but we also understand that there are some shortcomings of the autogenous business in the marketplace. One of those things that I did while I was at Mariel, by the way, was to have responsibility for the R&D and the collaboration with R&D and manufacturing in a autogenous company that Mariel had purchased. So I spent a little bit of time in the autogenous business as well. So let's just think about what happens when a sample comes to the diagnostic lab from the field that may have PRRS in it. It's going to be grown on marked cell lines, right? And whether it's a D lab or whether it's in the autogenous manufacturing place. An interesting note for those of you who know the patent portfolio or the patent landscape for PRRS over the last 20 years is a good part of that patent landscape in North America was based on the fact that folks determined that you could grow VR2332 on marked cell lines. Well, why was that unique? That was unique because lots of other folks, diagnostic labs, state diagnostic labs, and companies tried to grow the first VR2332 isolate on marks and couldn't. Somebody else continued to pass the virus blindly, pass the virus blindly, pass the virus blindly, and it finally grew. A good part of that IP portfolio was based on that observation. That observation is VR2332 doesn't grow very well on marks without a lot of adaptation. VR2332 was a typical field isolate. Lots of typical field isolates don't grow. And we'll have a presentation from ISU that will help to understand how we're beginning to see how the differences between ZMac and mark perform in the field. So what else? What does that mean then? A sample comes in. A sample is attempt to isolate it. It grows, maybe after several passages, but to an inconsistent titer. That vaccine is then formulated at an inconsistent titer. And I think we all appreciate the fact that PRRS as an inactivated antigen does not present itself very well to the pig and in a consistent way. So you've either got a virus that happens to grow well, probably because it was a vaccine virus to start with. You've got a virus that doesn't grow well to a reasonable titer, or it doesn't grow at all. So all three of those are kind of questionable outcomes for the autogenous PRRS business. Once again, we will present information to you to help you to understand that should be significantly addressed in the BARRICADE presentation. Because the virus that you submit has a much greater chance of being the virus that you get back at a high and a consistent titer. And we'll be able to show that the presentation of that antigen to the right tissue at the right time is also going to result in a very effective response.